Hello everyone, my name's Simon WOOLHAM. I'm an artist based at Rogue Artist Studios in Manchester and a contemporary art lecturer at University of Huddersfield. So welcome to my workshop, Drawing Out Your Home/Garden. The workshop has been commissioned by Air Gallery in Altrincham with the support from the National Lottery Community Fund. So drawing out your home/garden is a drawing excavation and interpretation of your house and garden spaces. And why I've used the term excavation will soon become clear. So because I'm an artist and because I'm interested in both understanding and interpreting histories, before I present to you what the workshop entails, I thought I'd start with a very brief history of the processes that we will be exploring through the workshop. So, as stated here, in art terms, frottage, from French frotteur, to rub, rubbing, is a surrealist and automatic technique and method of production developed by the German surrealist painter, sculptor, graphic artist and poet Max Ernst. And this is a Max Ernst frottage called Wheel of Light from 1926. And this is another Max Ernst frottage called The Entire City, which was from 1934. And this is a detail of Ernst's later, what he called his grattage series, which is a similar technique to frottage, but instead using layers of oil. And this series is called Europe After the Rain. So my first experience of seeing a rubbing being made was of Sir Richard's tomb by Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade from 1989, which also equates to the year I left school and my own artistic expedition began. So, in 1938, the partially flooded knight's tomb was discovered by Indiana Jones in the catacombs of Venice, and underneath the church, using research notes left by Henry Jones Sr., Indy opens the tomb to discover the shield buried with the knight. And he recognised that the inscription on the shield matched the inscription on the Holy Grail tablet, at which point he makes a rubbing of the shield's text. The historical and common use of the physical bodily process of brass rubbing is still in use by archaeologists, architects, biologists, and even environmentalists, as well as brass plaque lovers. And brass rubbing was originally a largely British enthusiasm for reproducing onto paper monumental brasses, commemorative brass plaques found in churches where, in some cases, brass plaques are slowly but surely worn away by the rubbing process, and in many cases creating rubbings is actually banned. So, the workshop Drawing Out Your Home/Garden is an extension to an artwork that I built for Beyond, Drawing Beyond Itself, which was a group exhibition at Air Gallery in Altrincham that explored, in essence, expanded ideas around drawing and what drawing can be. And this is my piece, which was called Towards the Unknown. And the drawing, which fits into the space exactly, is 10 by 17 feet in length, made from over 300 rubbings amassed during a 4-day walk along the Kennet and Avon Canal from Newbury to Bath in Wiltshire. So for drawing out your home/garden, you will explore an expanded drawing transformation process through engaging with the spaces and surfaces through graphite rubbings from the architecture, interior, objects and spaces of your home/garden. You will then make and interpret the rubbings through a cut and paste process, excavating the rubbings into a single large-scale artwork, considering scale, surface, texture, perspective, and pattern. So, what materials do you need? So here's an ingredients list. So you'll need a lot of A4 paper. In fact, simple photocopier paper or office paper is best because it's very white and contrasts with the rubbings themselves. You'll also need a prick stick or something similar. Scissors or a scalpel for manipulating and cutting some of your rubbings. You may also need larger sheets of paper, for example A1 or A0, but this is not necessary. You know, if you do have A0 or A1 sheets of paper, then it might be that you, instead of one large drawing, that you do a series of larger drawings. And what's most important is that you'll need a Lyra graphite stick, or something similar. You know, something that makes a good rubbing. So once you've assembled your materials, you know, I want you to take the sheets of A4 paper and your Lyra graphite stick or similar and explore, excavate as much as you can. You will get dirty and end up looking like you have been down a coal pit, as demonstrated here and here. So gathering rubbings can be a very physical process. You know, be prepared to move around and either into spaces. And through my projects, I often found myself down drains, in bushes, on machinery, and at times almost in the water. This process is very much about getting close to the surface and into the environment. I really do want you to excavate and draw out the surfaces from the architecture, interior, objects, and spaces of your home and garden. Examples of good objects to take rubbings from might be, for example, radios, toasters and kettles, radiators, the inside of a washing machine, but obviously please be careful with that one. The textures of drawers, the texture of your internet hub, for example. Explore everything in your back garden. Paths, tables, chairs, grids, pots, sheds, fences and locks, for example. And also explore everything in your front garden. Bricks, bins and concrete slabs, for example. Explore both the shapes and textures. You will be surprised what makes a good rubbing. And if the rubbing interests you, make multiple ones and of course fill the pages, or even overlay the rubbings with a number of rubbings. What is important is that you get a good impression. So press quite hard with the graphite sticks and almost like mould the paper around the texture or object if necessary. I'd also suggest having a bag at hand to put the finished rubbings in, especially if it's windy out in the garden, for example. So you may want others in your household or bubble to help you or even collaborate with. So once you've amassed your rubbings, we move on to the build, construct, interpret phase of the workshop. And what you should next do is lay out your library of rubbings in a space where you can see most of them. For example, on the kitchen floor or on a large table. It is good to do this so that you start to interpret and develop what I call a frottage vocabulary. It is at this point, that you begin to manipulate the rubbings and consider how you might cut, tear, or fold them, and how you might consider manipulating, constructing, and drawing with them. And this part of the process I relate to being akin to a physical version of Photoshop, or fuzzy felt, for those that remember fuzzy felt, when shapes, textures, and motifs can go in endless combinations. So be instinctive. You have to start somewhere. And if you would rather work directly on the wall rather than working towards smaller A1 or AO composites, for example, then you may choose to cover the wall with larger paper, using a roll of brown parcel paper, for example. So I would suggest that you constantly step back and walk away from the material and reflect on the bigger picture and development in relation to the whole space and paper you are working in. I would recommend that you constantly document the process with cameras or camera phones at points of reflection. A good skill to learn here is to constantly reflect, consider, and interpret the rubbings and what is placed next to what. You may want to repeat patterns or build more pictorially. You may want to develop creatures, landscapes, buildings, or unknown things. These are a few examples of smaller composites I've made in the last couple of years, all made from parts of my garden. This one's called Into the Valley, and all of these smaller composites are A1 size. This one's called On the Run. This is called The Blockade. So, the workshop structure. This is what I want you to do now. So I want you to spend an hour, or around an hour, collecting as many A4 rubbings as you can. I then want you to spend an hour looking and reflecting on your rubbings, and then building your drawing, your large drawing or your smaller A1 or or AO composite drawings.